Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, and that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Our Boys, episode 7. It's called Judging by Its End. So full spoilers for the episode as always. And this one is kind of a biggie. This was here's the answers to what happened on the night of. This is the story. The walkthrough is happening, the reenactment with Avishai, and we see a little bit of it at the start. We see a little bit of them kind of asking them some questions, but very quickly it just becomes the story of that night from his perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And every so often we see a glimpse of like the present day thing where it's, you know, Simon's like next to him and asking him questions, and we get a little snippet here or there. But for the most part, it is just the story of what happened that night from their side of it. Did you like that story? Were you into this episode?
Very, very much. I wanted to know the answers, and I got them all.
Yeah.
I thought this was a really good Avishai-centered episode and performance.
I think... I don't know if it beats episode 2, but I think it's definitely the next one after it, quality-wise.
Yeah, although I was expecting to see more Hussein, and I thought maybe it would be a bit more dangerous for them to go out.
I did notice the time, though.
I'm glad he's safe.
Because it was whenever it was like footage of the camera, like when it was like the present day stuff, you could see what time they were recording it at, and they were out there like 3 a.m. So I think they were intentionally doing it when it was as quiet as humanly possible. So right. I think that was the idea, but it was really engaging though, because it was basically this story of like them going out on the night, and there's multiple failed attempts to capture someone. And like, how much does Avishai know? Does he know that they're planning on killing someone? Does he just think that it's beating someone up? Or, you know, there's a great scene where Simon's asking him, like, what did you think all this gasoline was for? Because they just get it from the station. They're just pouring it into bottles, and they're not supposed to let people do that. But the guy kind of knows Yosef, so he's like, sure, like whatever. And he's like, burning a car or maybe a store or something like that. Like, but he's stuttering a lot. He is stuttering all over the place. So
yeah, it's a good, like, he really truly believes he didn't commit murder, and we sort of believe it too, because of that, and that was the last thing that we see him say in the previous episode. So I am like watching this movie, I've done that before, watching this episode thinking that, okay, at what point does he leave them then and not know what happens next?
And that never happens.
And it never happens.
It never happens. And I think one of my favorite things about this episode is that as he's saying more stuff, it's specifically when they get to the point where they actually capture Muhammad, and he's describing, like, you know, the first move that was made and how he grabbed his hand when he tried to call for help. And he's like, and Simon says to him, so you struck him first. You were the first person to put your hands on him. Mm-hmm. And there's this look in Simon's face, and it's like kind of like he just died a little bit inside, because it's like, that makes him more implicated in this than he thought he was. Like Simon thought he was this kind of third
I think
party.
There's a real cognitive dissonance in his brain, like what he's, I mean, that's kind of redundant, but like that he really truly believes that he had nothing to do with, like, his part of the plan was always going to be innocent, and because he didn't participate in the final part, then he's off the hook. You know, it's everyone else. And I think that's more for his own peace with God than anything else.
Yeah, it was Simon from that moment on when he asked that question. So you touched them first. There's this look on his face that, forgetting Avishai himself, just looking at Simon. Simon, you can see in his eyes that he's disappointed or he's heartbroken, because this is the moment where, like, even if like he is somehow not as implicated in the rest of it, this is already more than he thought he was involved in. Like, the idea that he was the first person to go, because I actually thought, so let's rewind to the rest of this journey, because there's quite a bit before this where Yosef picks Avishai up, and they're getting some stuff ready, some bottles for the gasoline, and then they go pick up the other kid, and they change their clothes. They're not wearing the yarmulkes. Because they're going to basically be infiltrating other communities where they can't be seen as immediately as Jewish. Although some people do recognise them as Jewish, because they get a little bit of grief from outside the car at one point. But they're driving around and they're looking for a victim, and they're looking for someone who's, we can't be someone who's like too old, too young, or too strong. You know, it has to be someone who we can take easily.
Yeah. They
And
say specifically smaller than Avishai because he's the one who's going to have to take him down.
yeah. So what I liked about this episode in a weird way is that it has this perverse point of view. It has this. It reminds
Hmm.
me of something like a POV of a serial killer in like a movie,
Yeah.
where there is this kind of perverse thrill you get watching this, where you're like, they keep almost like doing something and not going through with it. They keep like almost getting into trouble and
Yeah.
backing down. And they're out in the night, and you feel like you're out in the night hunting, and it gives you that kind of sense of the hunt, and it feels like you can,
Yeah, and when they're disappointed because they failed, you kind of have that sense of, oh, they didn't get it. But like
yeah, weirdly you do, yeah. It's this kind of
it's
perverse
it's
thing.
sickening because you're like, well, clearly I don't want, but you know, I guess it's different because you know it's going to happen and you want the
Yeah,
answer.
yeah. So, but it has this kind of perverse like build of like, because obviously in the scenes themselves, like these characters, especially the two kids and Avishai more than anyone, is very nervous, and there's this build of those nerves over the course of it, and you kind of almost feel that with him. It's really
Oh
well
yeah,
directed.
definitely.
It's well directed. The way it like focuses on the close-ups of the faces. Because one of the weird things about movies is that I feel like a lot of movies and TV shows don't capture what it actually feels like to be driving at night.
Yeah.
Whereas this does, I feel like all the street lights hitting them, that orange glow of the
Hmm.
amber, like all that stuff feels very authentic. I felt the same way about Locke with Tom Hardy. And it's really important in that movie because the entire movie's set in the car, like
Yeah.
on this one journey at night. So it really kind of had to feel authentic, but like it really felt like no, we're out in like a city because they're in a busy place at first, and they're looking for victims, and it's like there's like hundreds of people around. Like, of course you're not going to find your victim here. This is a terrible idea. And then of course there's the scene where they find the five kids who are together, and uh, they almost like get one of them, like where he like, makes them lean in, and like, he's going to push him in, but he just doesn't do it. And it's not Avishai, it's the other guy who doesn't do it. The other guy fails to act in the moment, and it's this really kind of, again, this very kind of perverse, like creepy stalking, like through the looking glass kind of mentality. It reminds me of how I feel when I watch movies like Maniac, which was all POV, or even something like I don't like quite say Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, but it's definitely kind of in that kind of realm.
What's the
But
last one?
Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer with Michael Rooker. That
Oh,
is
I've never
a
seen it.
that is disturbing as shit, that movie. So, but it basically, but I mean, obviously, those are specifically dealing with like being in the head of a psychopath, and I mean, I think debatably maybe Yosef is a psychopath if you really want to look at it, but not in the same way as those characters.
Sure, but I mean, he unfortunately has a lot of support. Like even the first
Oh yeah.
scene where he's describing what has happened in when they're in the eyeglass shop where
Mm.
that Yosef works at, and they're describing things like what can we do? Like what is right for something that has happened to these three boys, the three Israeli boys, Jewish boys. And even the rabbi looking guy who's there just says revenge. Like it's the only thing that would makes any sense.
Yeah, there's also a lot of other things he says. He's chatting with the people on the street. He says like just propaganda statements like, "Oh, be careful when we're out here." By the way, guys, like these Arabs are like trained to kill Jews from birth. And it's like, what? Like
Yeah,
how?
he's teaching them not to see them as
Yeah,
human beings, but to see them as just terrorists, like even the young ones.
that's what he calls them, because even he sees a pregnant woman at one point. He says, "Oh, she's baking a little terrorist in there." Like that's what he
Yeah.
says. So it's just this rhetoric. It's just straight up rhetoric. There's no other way to
It's
phrase it.
gross. Yeah.
And so there's all these close calls, and they see Mohammed, and they're going to like, okay, you guys go get him. I'm going to do a U-turn in the car, but then he beeps the horn twice because he tells them beforehand, if I beep twice, then there's something wrong, so abort. And they do, and he's like, oh, this old guy wants me to give him a lift. Can you believe it?
Mhm.
This makes it so easy, and they go to pick up the old guy, and just as they're getting there, and here's this is the moment where I was saying to go back to Mohammed, not Mohammed, sorry, back to Avishai's guilt here,
Yeah.
because what I thought was going to happen here is when they went in the car to go pick up the old guy, I thought Avishai was going to say something and say, no, it shouldn't be an old guy. We should go for the young kid. It'll matter more,
Mm.
or something like that. Like I thought, even if he's not the one who kills him, I thought they were going to make him be the one who decides who it is. You know, in terms in the sense of the story, not that our characters would force him. That's why he would feel so guilty because he chose the victim. And then the old guy gets picked up by someone else, and it's like shit, oh, we failed, and they're miserable. And and at this point, Yosef's even like, oh, I guess we can just call it a night and go home, because there's been several times where they were falling asleep. That's why they go to the store and get the energy drinks, because and one of the little touches that I liked actually from a filmmaking point of view is how it cut to the surveillance footage we've already seen,
Yeah.
intercepted into the moments where it fits. I really liked that. It really sort of like, it felt like it was painting the
You
picture.
should really watch Patriots Day.
You keep telling me about this Patriots Day. I'll watch it soon, okay? I'll watch it soon. I promise you here and now. I'm watching it soon. Um, so even after this moment, I thought Avishay's going to say, well, what about that kid? He might still be there. Like, I thought he was going to, like, again, be the one who makes the kind of choice. And he never quite does. Like, it doesn't do what I thought it was going to. But
No, but when I saw Avishai do like the talking to the kids,
mm,
or even when he came up to Muhammad, like the way he speaks to them in this calm manner where he's just trying to lure them in, it made me feel kind of ill. Like he was really good at
yeah,
it.
he's more of a straight up sociopath than maybe
Yeah,
we realized. Which, but
because he's been shy and like stuttering this whole time, but when he goes up to the kids to like light the cigarette and stuff, like he's got this look in his eyes and his face that he's making where it's just like, oh, he's like real sinister. Like I think he does know what the consequence of taking this kid would be,
yeah, he
and
claims he
his
doesn't.
ultimate fate would be.
He claims he doesn't, but yeah, you get the feeling that he maybe does. Maybe he's repressing it now, but he probably does. And
Hmm.
and that's I was thinking. I thought he was going to be the one who makes the choice, and instead, the only thing that really happens is they see Muhammad again. They drive past him again, kind of just by accident, essentially, and he says, "Oh, look, there's that kid again." So he makes that statement, but it's not as a thing as I thought, because I really thought it was going to be he's actually going to pick him out and say or make them turn
I
around
mean,
and go back for him, and it doesn't quite
it's
happen.
it is kind of him though, right? Because Yosef says, "Never mind, forget it." And then Muhammad walks out, and Avisha says, "There he is. Let's just do it. He's right there again."
Yeah, it does it in a more sort of subtle way, I guess. Like, I really thought it was going to be this thing where he actually gets him to turn around, and he doesn't. He just happens to see him, so it's a bit more
Yeah.
just sort of like presented to him as opposed to him saying, "No, let's do this," and in the same way that
But I mean, it's
I
Yosef.
thought.
Like, they've been saying all night that it's not going to work. We keep failing. It's embarrassing, and it's getting more and more difficult. Let's just forget about it. And Yosef says, "No, we're doing this tonight. We've already agreed. We've already committed. It gets done tonight." And then finally, Yosef's like, "No, we're not going to do this. We keep failing. It's humiliating. Call it." And Avishai presents an opportunity.
I guess I was just expecting it to be more of I guess more of a villainous turn, like where we felt like, oh, like he really like made the
Yeah.
choice. And it's still kind of there, don't get me wrong, but so sure enough, because I was actually thinking the first time they go to get him, I was like, wait, this isn't right. They weren't walking at him from this angle, because if you remember back at the end of the first episode, he was sitting with his
We
back
saw him
against the
like
wall, uh,
wave and stuff. Yeah.
and we see them coming down from the distance. But sure enough, when they go back the second time and they're doing it, that is the angle they come from. He's just saying, hey, can you give us directions to this place? And he keeps saying it, like you say, very kind of like calm and
Mhm.
collected, and Mohammed kind of senses he's in danger because this car stops and it feels kind of suspicious, and he tries to leave and they won't let him. So he goes for his phone, and that's when Avishai sort of grabs his hand and pulls it down, and the struggle starts. But as soon as the struggle starts, we cut to present day, and it's like Simon standing there, and it's this thing where it doesn't just give us it uncut. Like, we see little snippets of it more and more as Simon's asking about the first contact and how they got him in the car, and like what did
Mhm.
they do once he was in the car, and like them zip tying him and things like that. But you really get this sense, this moment, because he lets him be uncuffed, because he wants Avishai to show him exactly how he grabbed them, like what exactly happened, how did you grab his hand, kind of thing. And again, this is what leads to Simon kind of getting that look in his face where he's like, "You made the first move, and you initiated this," which makes you a lot more implicated in this than that I thought you were. So,
This was really, really well directed, this scene
mm,
because we don't want to see exactly what happens to Muhammad. But I think because we're doing it from Avishai's retelling, like you never really see Muhammad once he's in the car and everything's happening to it. You can
Yeah.
kind of hear him, but and you can tell there's a struggle, and you can hear the consequence because of the breathing.
Yeah,
But
I mean that all boils up to how they handle the burning as well, because you never see
yeah,
the burning
absolutely.
on camera. You see the edge of the glow. You see like just this, just next to the burning.
We know. Yeah,
Yeah,
we know exactly what happened, and we don't have to.
yeah,
I think it's done tastefully.
yeah. It's done tastefully, but it's done in that way where it's effective, because it's one of these things where, like in some low budget movies, they're so low budget that you can tell the reason why they're shooting it this way is because they can't afford to actually burn something, so they'll just have the light effect off camera, and it feels really cheap. But and not that this reminded me of that, because it looked authentic, it looked good. This
It
shows
really did, yeah.
look great throughout. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you can tell in this scene this is a directorial choice for the effect, and because they want to do it tastefully and not just have it be this like shocking, like here's a body burning.
Yeah,
Like,
and the camera's never off of Avishai's face the whole time, so you're just dealing with his character. Like this is this is what happened to Muhammad, and we've been
yeah,
with
no,
his
no,
dad for so long that this has been the heart that and but because we're focusing on Avishai's reaction to what's going on and the realization of what's really happened and what he's a part of, it's still his story, even though it's a horrible thing that's happening to
well,
someone else.
well, this is the thing, is that, to go back to the point I made before and the point you just made there, is that the directorial choices in that scene in the car, because Yosef says, Avishai, you go back in the car and don't look because it'll give you nightmares.
Hmm.
The trick of not showing the exact burning but just seeing some of the some of the glow in the flame, because when it first starts, like we're looking at Avishai sitting in the car and they're behind him on the other side, and we see the light coming up, and some of the smoke coming up, right? And then once Avishai notices it, and then he runs out, and then we have the shot where he's further down, he's ran far away, and we stay in his face again. The reason why this works conceptually in the scene, on top of just the idea of being tasteful and not showing it, is because Avishai never actually sees it either. We're focusing on him, and because he doesn't
Yeah.
see it, we don't see it either. So it keeps us in his frame of mind and his perspective the entire time. And that doesn't necessarily mean literally being his POV. It doesn't have to be first person, just in the sense that, we keep it tight. It's something I always
Yeah.
talk about, is you do a close-up, sometimes because the raw emotion, but sometimes because if the character's so consumed with their emotion right now, they're not paying attention to their surroundings, therefore we as the audience don't get to see the surroundings because we're so just with them in their little world right now, because they're not looking around them. And here it's not the exact same thing. Here it's more specific that he's actively choosing not to look. So we're staying just on him to emulate that. We emulate that as the audience with the direction, with how it's focused on just on Abishai. And of course
Hmm.
there's the really scary moment for him where he's left behind because they don't realize that he's left the car and they drive off. And he is panics. Like he runs down the street screaming for
Yeah.
them to like come back and get him. And they do stop as soon as they realize they stop and back up a little bit, and he runs to the car. But I could almost feel my heart drop in that moment, even though I know they don't leave him behind because they obviously wasn't out there like before.
Yeah, it's true. Technically, we know where this all ends and where everyone is, but we still are in the moment because it's so well done.
Yeah, and what's really neat is that I don't think they should do this, but you could totally do a supercut of this in episode 2, cut together, because you
Hmm.
see,
I thought
that.
about rewatching it after.
Yeah, that
After.
moment where, like he's down there and then she looks down. This is the end of episode 1 technically, but she looks down and he's missing. But all this stuff with Muhammad, like on the street looking for him, because he's still alive at this point. This is when he's in the car,
You mean
presumably.
Hussein?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hussein, sorry, yeah, Hussein's
I
down
was
the
thinking
street.
about that, like
Yeah.
when they were taking him, I'm like, this is around the time where he's doing that. He's looking around and calling because we do see his mother call the phone.
Yeah, yeah. And they take the battery out and throw it out, and that's why it ends up in the forest. But it's really well done, and it feels like and it's probably why it's my second favorite episode next to episode 2, because it is literally the other side of that night. It is the other side of
It's
the
so
coin.
tense too. Yeah.
Yeah, to the point where,
It's character focused and it's nothing but tension. It's really good.
yeah, to the point where I'm like, I mean, I know we're probably getting maybe some trial stuff or how they deal with the punishment in the last 3 episodes, but I really don't know how we're filling 3 episodes after this. Like,
I don't either.
because I would expect this to be the second last episode. I can see 1 episode after this, but I'm not sure what 3 episodes after this are, so I'm curious. And
Well,
even
they've
though,
been, showing footage of war, and they talked about war at this one too, so I guess we're going to get some
and what's the thing? I don't think so because it's been
war.
such a background thing that I feel like to do an episode just focus on that would feel like a weird betrayal of what the focus of the show is, because the show's been
Hmm.
so much about the characters, and that's been like, okay, the effects of it are felt in the background, but it's not been. This show has so much been about the core, like, few characters that we've been dealing with. It's about Simon, Avishai, Hussein, and the related characters that I feel like I don't see it betraying what the focus has been. Like we'll see them react to what's happening in the world, but I don't think it's
Yeah,
certainly going to shift
it would be
focus.
a satisfying conclusion to see Avishai really understand what he's done and accept what he's done.
Yeah, I think there was a hope that maybe he is better than the others, and but ultimately this episode told us the real tragedy here is that he is this broken, that he is actually culpable and all. Even though, I'm sure he didn't actually
I
beat him to death,
Yeah,
he
it
didn't
was
burn him, but he's there.
probably the hardest scene was when the other guy whose name I can't remember starts with a Y, but the other guy, not Avishai, in the back seat was choking Muhammad, and he was choking him for so long that he couldn't feel his hands anymore, and he asked Avishai to help him, and Avishai thinks that he didn't really do it because his hands are technically on the other guy's hands
Mm.
around Muhammad's neck. So he still doesn't feel like he's culpable, but
Yeah,
he is.
I feel like a reaction from, say, like his therapist when she finds out about any of this and like what he's really like, could be a really hard hitting scene.
Yeah.
Sort of like, okay, he's really this bad. Like he really is this disconnected. Um, and not this idea that he's even conscious of it now. This idea that he keeps kind of somehow writing it away in his mind. He keeps sort of like excusing it somehow with this reason or that reason, this technicality. But
Well, he keeps, quoting the Torah the whole time. Isn't that
mm,
where we get the title of the episode? Is because
yeah,
it's justified because it's a retaliation, eye for an eye kind of deal.
well, no, yeah, I mean that's part of it, but like the main thing that judging by its end really kind of means as he brings it up is this idea where he tries to argue with Simon that you're judging this as a murder weapon because that's eventually what it's used as, but that doesn't necessarily mean that was the intention of it when it was when it was packed. This crowbar was meant to just beat someone up.
Yeah, but then Simon's there to be like, well, what else could it have been for? Really?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not saying he's right. I'm saying that Avishai's logic is that judging something or someone because of what they end up doing when it might not have been that in the first place. When at the time he didn't know it was going to be that. He's essentially arguing that he didn't know that they were going to murder someone. That's ultimately
Yeah.
what he's doing.
It sounds a lot like his therapist too,
Yeah.
like the way she talks in the previous episode of like it doesn't matter exactly what I say because if I say something that sounds bad, that's what you're going to hold on to and you're going to forget about the rest of the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, really solid episode. It was really engaging. It was really tense, and felt both tense, but also very kind of like we're getting the secret book of answers, and because of that, it had this kind of like aura about it the whole time. And it was right to focus just on this. It was right to not cut to other characters. It was right to just always make it be what this was, which is just
Hmm.
that night and just that story. And I think the next episode is called Defendants 2 and 3. So I feel like next episode we're going to be getting Yosef and the other guy and like seeing them confronted with this stuff. Because as of now, we've not really seen much of them since they've been arrested. We saw a little bit of footage on TV of them in the interrogation rooms, but that was basically it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know that we need very much of them because I mean, their characters have always been kind of just around Avishai's stories. So now that we have his side of the story, I,
oh yeah, I don't think they'll get the same attention that Avishai did, but I feel like we're probably going to at least get like them breaking down because Avishai has already like told them everything, so they're going to
yeah,
go in and
I
probably
guess it's true.
break them
That could
really
be
quickly.
satisfying.
Yeah, and we'll see. Maybe we'll see some of like them being punished or sentenced or like wherever this leads.
Well, I mean, the last time we saw Muhammad, he was trying to um, he had a conflict going between him and his brother and neighbors
You
or
mean
whoever else
how?
is
Sorry,
around him.
you mean
So I think we're gonna,
Tara?
check back
Tara,
there.
you mean Hussein?
Oh yeah,
You
pardon
said
me.
Mohammed.
Insane.
I was trying to correct you, and you kept
There's a
going.
delay. Insane.
Hussein, yes, yes. Hussein, yeah, we've got that going, of course. And how does Hussein that react? Because I was almost expecting like Hussein to look down from the window, because obviously we know they're right outside their house.
Hmm.
When they're at the place where Mohammed was taken. I was almost
Everything seems really evacuated
yeah.
though.
Yeah, well, they had a lot of police, like armed police around them, as if like they'd been kind of clearing out places that they were going. But like, I was expecting him to almost look down at one point and see Avicii and be like, "Is that him? Like, is he one of them?" Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And not lead to anything else in this episode, just enough that it'd be something we pick up on next time. Like he would have seen him and just have this one little moment. Which isn't a complaint. I mean, nothing I have said about this not being exactly what I was
Mm-mm.
expecting was a complaint in this episode. It was just where my
Not at
thought
all.
process was going as I was going through it. I kept
No,
expecting
this
these
was
little things to.
masterfully done.
Yeah, no, it was. It was really, really confident, really well directed and edited. And you just kind of get lost in the night, lost in this one night story of their hunt.
Yeah.
And of course, the final scene is just kind of summing up everything we've been talking about. Avishai asks Simon, like, because of what I did, that means I didn't kill someone, right? Like that, that makes me not a murderer. And Simon says, I don't know, and puts him back in prison.
Yeah. Not sugarcoating anything.
Yeah, because he doesn't know. So I really like that moment. It's really bittersweet because it kind of sums up how you feel about Avishai by the end of this episode. You're like, you were hoping
Yeah.
he was better than this, and he's really not.
Yeah. And Simon says that he is done with him. So I guess that means he probably won't have another interaction with that character anymore.
Not beyond maybe seeing him in court or something like that. I forget
Maybe.
court
Yeah.
scenes, but yeah, and
That's the direction they go.
I think in terms of talking to him as a part of the investigation, no, it's done. Like he's done with him. So, but yeah, that is episode 7 of Our Boys. We got 3 left. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. You can get us on the Twitters at @mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show, of course, you can do that by rating the audio podcast on your podcast app of choice. Apple Podcasts being the most common one. Give us 5 stars, and that helps us out a lot because Apple then share it out more and recommend it to people when they're listening to something else. You can support us, of course, financially. Tara, why don't you do the honors?
Why, you could check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/SmileFuzzTV. You could donate as low as $1 per month, and that dollar gets you so many bonus features, including bonus episodes of other shows we do. Some shows you get a week early, right? Oh no,
That's changing.
just
yes.
bonus episodes.
Just bonus episodes. But the $5 tier, you get stuff early, starting the end of October, and you get voting rights on a bunch of the movie podcasts, and then there's the higher tiers with names at the end of the videos and things like that. So go have a look. But $1 is fantastic and keeps everything running, so go and have a look and see if you want to. But that is us. That has been Our Boys episode 7, chapter 7. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?